intro and everything, man.
Yeah, it's fancy.
Yeah, it's legit. I'm trying to up my game a little bit. When I have guys like you in here, I gotta be a little more impressive. I can't just kind of barely get through it.
That's nice.
Yes. It's not too bad. Not too bad. Well, here we are. This is my official, unofficial episode, like number 25. Like, I've done 25 of these so far, and we're gonna keep rolling. So, it's like a special anniversary.
Yeah.
So why not have you in, right?
Why not?
This is your third time to sit down here with me. So I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. So everybody watching out there today, this is Conrad Jackson, and he is joining me today. We're going to chat about all things investing in real estate. We might dabble in a few other things as we go along here, but primarily, I wanted to bring him on because he's got some cool new things that he's doing, and I wanted to kind of talk about a little bit and kind of see what got him inspired to do so. So Conrad is he's a realtor, he's an investor, he's a builder, he's a landlord, he's a developer, like pretty much runs all the gamut of things. It's basically what I want to be when I grow up one day. It's what I aspire to be one day. So he's already accomplished all those things and is working towards many, many others. So, but what we're going to chat about today is you actually you're about to release a YouTube channel or YouTube series, I guess,
a little mini series. Yeah.
Just kind of about some of the stuff that you're doing and what you're working on, and all those kind of things. So tell me a little bit about like what was the trigger that made you want to do this? How long you've been working on it, and kind of where you plan on going with it?
Sure, man. First of all, appreciate you bringing me back on.
Sure.
I need to get some type of like contributor once a month, something like that.
Yeah.
I just kind of ping in from somewhere.
That's right.
Throw my 2 cents in and bounce out. I feel like I could do that on here.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can ask questions. It's live, so you can post stuff. We can talk about whatever. I don't know.
But yeah, so we're about to release my YouTube little mini series. It's an idea we've been kind of talking about for years. Myself, my videographer, Keith Betters, Keith Creative. Shout out to him at Keith Creative on Instagram, man. Dude is amazing. We went to high school together.
Yep.
We've been working together for years. He does all my real estate photography. So,
And Keith, real quick, Keith does quite a bit of other things, right? I think he's really
Keith
starting to blow up himself a little bit.
He's been big for a long time.
Yeah.
Right. He flies all over the world, does high profile weddings, high profile events. He does Google things. He does, the Vex Robotics conventions.
Oh, wow.
He does everything. I mean, they literally fly him all over the world. He does a lot of high profile, like I said, weddings and events as well.
Sure.
So NBA players and
NFL
players.
Okay.
Michael Irving. When you see Michael Irving on like NFL Live or whatnot, that's him shooting that.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So he does a lot of stuff. He's done stuff for Deion Sanders. He's all over the place. He's big time like
so he's been hanging out, rubbing elbows with the big boys, huh?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So I just try to keep myself attached to him. Make me feel a little special.
There you go.
He does a little work for me too, so I can kind of feel like
you, Michael Irvin, and Deion, y'all are all hanging out together.
No, I don't get to meet those guys. It's just him.
Well, just in his world, you're hanging out together.
Yeah. I get to be like the last guy on the list of people that he.
That's right. He's gonna accept your call third
because we went to high school together.
Right.
But yeah, man, it's just he's been working with me for a long time. Myself and my team, David DeVries team at Remax, and he's done really good work for us. So a couple of years back, we were like, man, he's like, you do a lot of stuff, man. Like, this will be good for a show.
That's understandable.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
So we've been trying to put it together for a minute.
Yeah.
And every time we try to put it together, we both get busy.
Yeah. Life gets in the way.
Yeah. So really, we kind of sat down during COVID, and we're like, look, we need to do this. The time is now, because I have more projects going on than I've ever had.
Yeah.
And he pretty much shoots them all. So he's like, let's try to put a format together and give this to the.
So you already had quite a bit of footage then on a lot of things.
We had a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So we didn't like actual footage that we could shoot and put it into a show.
Yeah.
We didn't have a ton, right?
Okay.
But we did have a lot of pictures and just random video and stuff.
So that's called B-roll. This is something that I learned doing our little renovation show that we did. Is they do a lot of extra filming of different just random stuff with no words attached to it. It's just
Absolutely.
stuff that you can use as filler for transitions between scenes or whatever. So
just drive. That's what it says. Just drive. Just get in the truck and drive.
So B-roll, that's lingo in the video world. Just so anybody that doesn't know.
Okay, you learned something today. You got nothing else from this podcast. B-roll.
We got a lot of B-roll. We just need some active discussions on your stuff.
Exactly. So yeah, man, we kind of put that together. As of late, we started shooting a lot earlier this year for some of the projects that we have going on right now. And I get a lot of questions from people all the time, like, what are you doing? How are you doing this? What else you got going on? So the show was kind of like a perfect way for me to
answer all those questions.
Yeah, answer all the questions.
Just watch the video.
Yes,
quit asking me.
Check the YouTube, check the Instagram, because that's where I'm going to be if you need to find me here going forward. But it was actually really cool to kind of see it come together.
That's good.
I think I'm also when I get on camera, I'm like, did that sound right? Is this cool? Is that cool? Like, he put it together really nice.
Everybody thinks that. Nobody's real excited about themselves.
Like
yeah. Well, like I said, when Susan and I did our show, when had told some people about it or whatever, obviously, and she was like, I really am nervous about it. I'm like, why? What are you nervous about? She's like, well, I haven't seen it, so I don't know what it looks like, because they didn't send us like an advanced copy or anything.
Right.
And so she's like, what if I look stupid? I'm like, look,
makes for good content.
Yeah, I mean, look, if we both look stupid, it's gonna be just fine. Okay, like it's not that big of a deal. Don't get all wrapped up in it. But it's look, seeing yourself on camera and seeing yourself, talk about stuff, because you don't ever. We all live right here inside of our own little brains. So, all we see is this. We don't get to see coming back. Like, I remember looking at one of the shots that we did, and like it was a profile view of me. I'm like, man, my head is really
that's the stuff that you look at.
Like my nose goes like this, my crane of my head sticks out the back. I'm like, it looks like some kind of alien.
Watching you fall into the water at the beginning of the show was very interesting.
Well, it's one of the things that I figured would apply for sure.
I rewound that a couple of times. Just to make sure.
Hang on 1 second. Let me check something. Oh, there we go. Hang on. Somebody was helping me out there and told me that my audio was all messed up. So I think we got a little bit better.
As long as they can hear me, that's all.
Yeah. Well, I think it was coming off my computer and not my mics. And every once in a while, see, this is the wonders of technology, is you get situations where your sound and video don't work, and thank goodness somebody else. See, Kevin, appreciate you, buddy.
Appreciate that, Kevin.
Yes,
you're a rock star for
paying attention, making sure. It's like, why does your sound suck today? I'm like, I don't know. So anyway, so yeah, doing those kind of things definitely doesn't make you feel great about yourself.
Yeah. There's a couple of times I was like, what the heck did I have on that day? I must have been really tired.
Yeah. Well, you sent me an advanced copy, so I got to watch it. It was great.
Cool.
It seemed very much just like any, I don't, this is a compliment, but like any other HGTV type of deal. I mean, Keith put it together really, really well.
Yeah.
So I think it's great. And I think are you guys planning on doing, are you going to kind of see how the first one goes and see if you want to do more? Or do you always, you can do more no matter what?
No, we're doing more no matter what.
Okay.
This is a way for me to, like I said, stay in touch with, the projects that we have and keep people updated as to kind of what all the facets of our business and what we do.
Right.
And so I'm going to keep going. It's the series. It's not going to be too long, man. It may be 10 minutes or less each episode. We'll release one every couple of weeks. And it's supposed to be fun.
Yeah, sure.
You'll see a few different things. You'll see my family in some.
Yes.
My wife, who's always a fan favorite.
Yes, she is.
See her get her shine in there, and
she will not disappoint.
She will not. Those will probably be the most watched episodes.
Absolutely. She is not a boring person by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah. But I also wanted to show some love to a lot of the people who help us get through our business on a day-to-day basis. The title company that we use, the contractors that we use, the loan officers, yourself that we use, that help us get through and be able to do the things that we do on a regular basis. I think it definitely helps me to stay in touch with that and appreciate that on a different level. So
in the scope of you're talking about all your projects, I know you probably have so many you can't think of them all off the top of your head, but what generally do you have kind of going on right now, just to give everybody an idea of the stuff that you're already working on?
So I've got a few rehabs going on. We've got a couple houses down in Hill County, Johnson County, that we are rehabbing to rent out.
Okay.
I think right now we have 3 rehabs going on.
Okay.
I've got a project that I was going to rehab in Fort Worth, but we decided to sell as is. That
was that the one that was on the first part? Oh, you just
yeah.
You're like, I'm done.
I was like, screw it. When you see the show, you'll understand. Yeah. It's been a process with that one. We did buy an event venue that we're going to host weddings and conferences and things of that nature. So we're in the process of building that property out. It's on 25 acres. And then I've got right now, I think 7 new construction houses that are in the process of going up right now.
Gotcha.
And then we've got the triplex, the multifamily new construction project that we're trying to close out. It was supposed to be done a couple weeks ago.
Now that one you built from the ground up?
Yep. Built from the ground up, bought the lot, developed the lot, got the house up, or got the property up. And now we're just doing finish outs right now.
Yeah. So in the clip that you sent me, you that's a good little mix because you actually showed a renovation, one that you were doing, how much you love flipping homes, as you stated. And then you show, I guess, the new build, which is the triplex.
Absolutely.
And then you talk about the
venue.
The venue.
Yeah.
So so the venue's one that's a little, I mean, it's not out of your scope because it's still land development and facility of building or whatever, but it's also you're going to do something with it after you're done, which is another business venture that you're getting into.
Absolutely.
So what inspired you to just get bored one day? Like, I need another thing. I don't have enough things.
I feel like I have a problem. And sometimes people bring me things and I'm like, man, I could make money from that. That's a fantastic deal, you know? And I put it together and then I buy it. I'm like, okay, now what? So no, man, I got that deal brought to me by an agent in our office. I had kind of been talking to him in passing and I said, man, he was telling me about this wonderful property he got on 40 acres. I said, if you ever have anything else like that, man, bring it to me first. I want to take a look at it. I've been looking for stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so he did. He found this. It was like 25 acres. And
when you put it out there, it's coming.
Yeah. And so it was literally like less than 30 days later. He's like, if you want this. So I went out there thinking Airbnb, throw some cabins or something like that on there. And it just screamed venue when I drove up on the road. And you'll see from the show, like it shows aerial shots. Matter of fact, those aerial shots, there's stuff back there I didn't even know was back there. I saw this, the preview of the show.
He says 25 acres?
It's 25 acres, just south of Hillsboro. Yeah, it's a place called Abbott, Texas, man. So it's real close to Lake Aquila.
Okay.
So if you're familiar with Hill County, you kind of know that's one of the bigger lakes out there. And yeah, that's how it kind of came about. We purchased it. I approached some family members about doing it as a family deal. And
it's always fun.
Some came in, some dropped out. And then I approached 2 of my childhood best friends and said, hey, you guys been asking me for stuff. Like, here's a deal we could do together. So I got partners on it. And we did it. We closed it. And now we're in the process of pouring concrete and framing and doing a lot of the things that we do on new construction anyway. So.
Well, and that's probably what you would call like a side skill that maybe you've developed by doing all this and the asking for money and even putting it that way is, sounds dirty or whatever, but that's not really what it is because I mean, it is, well, I mean, look, whether you're starting a tech company in Silicon Valley or you're, building a foundation or you're some charitable foundation or you're starting home building projects or whatever, most of the time, like you need funding of some kind and you have to have a network of people that you can reach out to that might be interested. And then you also have to be okay with someone going, yeah, no, I'm not interested or, hey, yeah, I'm interested. And then 3 weeks later, 4 months later, you're like, hey, and they say, oh, no, never mind. I don't want to do that. And not take it personal and just.
We had some of that. We had people who were asking me, hey, man, like, I want to get on this. Let's do something together. And then I brought the deal and put it out there and said, this is what it is. And they're like, you know what? Maybe this ain't the right one for us. And it's like, okay, well, if it's meant to happen, it'll happen. I had kind of washed my hands with it and said, if it's going to do it, let's do it. And if it's not, okay, we'll move on to the next thing. And everything just kind of fell into place and we were able to purchase that and get going on that. So.
So another thing that you're doing that you just kind of started, I know you've been doing it kind of on the side a little bit, but you have an investment group that you're kind of starting up, right?
Yeah. So a Facebook group is basically for new or, not crazy seasoned investors, people who are just getting into it. They've barely got their feet wet or they're trying to get their feet wet.
Well, they're interested in figuring it out.
Yeah. And they just want to learn, a lot of people just, there's a lot of gurus out there that they can't give you their personal success,
Right.
but they can tell you about how much success they have. But when you ask them to show you some stuff, they can't produce.
The world's
it.
filled with coaches.
Yeah. There's all these experts.
Everybody's a coach.
It's cool to be expert.
Yeah.
Now. So I wanted to do that for people who, again, since I have multifacets of our, different phases of our business, I want to make sure that people could reach me in one location.
Right.
It kind of helps me, because I can say something that probably 6 people have questions on,
right.
and then I can put it in that group chat or that Facebook group, and everybody can get their questions asked or start other questions off of that.
Right.
Get more detailed answers than what they thought they would get if just on a one-on-one.
But you're doing some in-person stuff too, though, right? Or have you started that yet, or that's just kind of in the works?
So the in-person comes and stems from my current clients and people in that group who want to take action.
Okay.
There are a few of them that have actually said, hey, it's time to go. Like,
right.
let's get this going. I want to buy my first one, or I want to buy a couple, or, there's people who I've helped that have bought, several properties at a time, and I've kind of held their hand through that process, so it's one of the things that we're offering if you're serious and you want to take this on. So it's been good. It's not like a, like a one-on-one coaching type deal.
Sure.
It's more of a, hey, here's a transaction and I need help.
Yeah.
And then I can step in and kind of guide them along the way.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you finding that the people that get involved with that kind of stuff, what are they gravitating to? Like, what facet are they kind of
so
flipping or buying new property and building, or what most people trying to do?
Well, as you saw from the show, I don't necessarily promote flipping very often, but I do have clients that flip.
Yeah.
And they're very successful at it.
Right.
I have some other clients. Most of the people who come to me about either new construction or rental real estate.
Okay.
Rehabbing properties and then renting them out.
Gotcha.
And that's an area that I really am passionate about, those two areas. So I've been helping guide them along the way. So a lot of the notes and things are geared towards rentals or new construction.
So I know you hate flipping for sure, but I think that probably has more to do with just the pain in the butt nature of doing it, right?
Yeah. It's a job for me.
Sure.
It's just another job. I don't need another job.
But between like flipping and long-term rentals, short-term rentals, new construction, what do you, if you were gonna, in your head, to somebody who was a new investor starting off, like it's like, okay, look, if I was going to do stuff, I would do it in this order.
Yeah.
If you want to try a little bit of everything and get what's kind of what's the best path in your opinion, not just how to learn to do it, but also like gives you the quickest return on your investment, but then also can kind of push you in that direction.
Sure. So I run more towards on a preference of rental real estate, rehabbing properties that, they need, work,
right.
And turning around and trying to get that long-term cash flow, just because in the markets like we are in DFW or where we live, your appreciations can go up a lot of times faster than what you can just pull out of a flip.
Right.
And so for me, it's like I can hold the asset, my net worth go up if I rehab it right. And then I can turn around and turn that into another property, which now turns into more cash flow coming in, which I can use that cash flow or that double appreciation and turn around and get into a flip if I need a lump sum of money.
Right.
And then once you've mastered the rental side, then go to and dabble in probably the flipping or the new construction. They're not the same thing, but they're kind of the same.
Right. Because you're doing a lot of the same stuff. It's just
the only thing is the new construction takes longer typically.
Right.
Because you're going ground up with a fresh set of plans as opposed to trying to reconfigure a house that's already
there,
built.
has a footprint.
Yeah. But each process you have to go through permitting and you have to go through contractors, and it's time consuming.
Yeah.
And so the flipping, I think, is a little bit more risky because of the unknown of what's there already.
Right.
Whereas new construction, if you can find a deal good enough, hey, this is, you're supposed to know, as you'll see in the episode. You feel a little bit better, like, hey, I'm pretty sure if I buy this, I can put this here.
Right. Because you're not unearthing anything new, other than, I guess, you're dealing with cities and permits and all the stuff that comes along with that. And you even had one issue where you're running plumbing and having an issue with the water. So that stuff certainly comes up.
Absolutely.
But as a flip, you're taking something that's, you're going to get inspections and things before you buy it. Maybe it's not if you're doing a hard money loan and it's the sprint to get the property.
Exactly.
But you're going to come across more things that are going to be, or could be problematic for you and cause delays, cause more money, all that kind of stuff. So it's just like flying into the unknown to some extent. And that's not fun.
And that's one of the things, like when we talk about the series, like smack dab 1 second in, we start going right into the challenges of flipping and
Yeah.
it's a personal preference, honestly. There are
Yeah.
plenty of people who do it successfully. They
Yeah.
do it at a high level and they're very good at it, and it's done well for them. But I'm not one of those people.
Well, and I think too, when you said initially about doing, a small rehab on a long-term rental
Yeah.
and then building your portfolio and building your wealth from there. I think anybody that's not that familiar with real estate investing would not fully understand that the idea behind that is that you have a property that has equity.
Correct.
Because it appreciates in value.
Correct.
And that equity you can then leverage with a bank to do more projects.
Correct.
Without necessarily having to come up with a ton of cash in order to pull that off, because
Absolutely.
the bank says, hey, you own this property or you own multiple properties. They have X amount of equity in them,
Sure.
whether they're paid off or whether
Sure.
you owe a little bit or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And then you can leverage that. I mean, I think you even told me one time that like you bought a piece of land that you really didn't have much intention to do much with, but it was cheap and you knew the value was there. And then you just used that as leverage to build other things.
Yeah. Yeah. Right? Yeah, absolutely. I that 1 acre that we bought in Alvarado, where I bought it for $8,000.
Yeah.
And I took it to the tax rolls showed it being worth $114,000. So I took it to the bank and said, hey, this is what it's worth. And they gave me a line of credit against it. So that way I could go get materials and things for some other new construction projects and rehabs that we had going on. But also I used that line of credit to buy my apartment complex, So it's just like one thing turned into another. And it's just seeing the value in something that a lot of people miss.
Yeah.
And you drive by stuff every day that you miss.
Well, and it's you miss it because it's kind of the there's a term for it. I just can't remember what it is.
You don't know what you don't know.
Well, yeah, for sure. But it's also like the best example is like when you buy a new car, right?
Yeah.
When you buy a red truck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then you're driving down the road and all of a sudden you see all these red trucks. You're like, where the hell all these trucks come from?
Yeah.
But that's just because there's, your brain has been opened up to this thing that wasn't there before.
Right.
And so part of the what you've been able to do and what you've been able to grow comes from the fact that you sold real estate for a long time.
Right.
So you're looking at houses every day.
Right.
You're taking buyers and sellers. So your eye is already geared towards looking at real estate.
Right.
So it's not like you're having to learn a new skill necessarily.
Right.
And then it's just a matter of continuing to look for stuff and always being on the lookout, because that's another thing you got to train yourself to do.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to go to work and do your job.
Yeah.
And then come home and be like, all right, my job's done.
Yeah.
But it's a whole other thing to be driving down the road going, I wonder what that property is. I wonder what that property is.
You
It's
see
a different
overgrown
mentality.
grass and boarded up properties, or hey, we buy houses, or owner finance signs. I just did a post about that in the group. The group is Real Estate Investing for Beginners on Facebook, on my Facebook page. But I just did a post yesterday about that, where I took a picture of a couple signs and said, how many times do you drive by signs like this and you actually call the number?
Right.
Where it says will owner finance, no banks,
right.
And it's like, that to me is like cha-ching,
right.
I don't have to go through a bank.
Right.
You're probably not going to check my credit.
Right.
And I can probably negotiate the price of this house down because I'm not going through a bank. And most people think that's a little bit more risky, and I put it in the post, we picked up 3 duplexes that way from one sign call, which we still hold today, which I've leveraged to buy other properties.
Yeah.
And, in that one sign call, I probably created $500,000 worth of net worth.
There's a guy or book that I read recently, or listened to. I don't read because I fall asleep. But I do a lot of audio stuff. His name's Naval Ravikant. Have you ever heard of him?
I don't think so.
So he's a hedge fund investor, private equity guy in San Francisco, kind of Silicon Valley type of dude. Yeah. And he started angel investing, like the online deal or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, but he has a quote in there and he says that inspiration is fleeting, so act on it.
Yeah.
Meaning,
absolutely.
Like what you're saying, I saw the sign, I called the number.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, some people see the sign. They might even write down the number.
Yeah.
I'll probably be one of these. Write down the number. I'm going to call that this weekend. And then it never happens. But that's the difference between finding opportunity and not, is that when stuff presents itself in front of you, sometimes you just have to act on it. It may turn into nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing may come of it, but you never know what one phone call or one action will lead to.
Absolutely.
Especially if that's something in your brain that you're like, man, I really want to check this out and see what I can see what I can find out. Right.
Yeah, for sure. It drives my wife crazy because we'll be, headed to a game or something. And then I'm just pulling a U-turn in the middle of the street. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, take a picture of that sign.
Yeah.
You know, and she's like, what? We got like 10 minutes to get to the gym.
Yes.
Like, I know, but take a picture of that sign. Real quick. So she'll do it.
Yeah.
Reluctantly, she'll do it. But, you know, and then for example, like I said, that one sign that I called back in the day, I think it was 2019, right? Pre-COVID or right at the beginning of COVID, where we bought a duplex owner finance, you know, and I didn't know much about owner. It was my first owner finance deal at the time. I'd read about it, but I'd never done one before. So I didn't know going in negotiating terms or anything like that. I kind of got lucky. It was a good deal. Bought the duplex, got somebody in it. Boom. Now it's rented and we're making money. And then maybe a few months later, that same guy called me back and said, hey, I've got these other 2 duplexes and it's in kind of that same area. Do you want to buy them? I'll owner finance those for you too. And he called me and I actually tried to turn it down because I was like, man, you know, I don't have enough money for what you're asking for. And he just kept lowering the price to get me to take them. Kept lowering it. And finally he got to the number that I needed it to be, which was like $5,000 a duplex down payment. Wow. And I bought those suckers and he was just tired of being a landlord. He just wanted to be the bank and he knew that I could handle it.
Well, I think we're in this weird place in the real estate market in general, where you have a lot of, I guess we call them boomers, right? A certain generation that owns a good chunk of real estate. Now it's shifting over to, you know, large entities and hedge funds and all that stuff. But there's still a lot of privately owned properties that individuals have owned for a long time and rented out.
Yeah.
Whatever. And those people are getting to an age where they don't want to jack with it anymore.
Right.
They don't want to mess with it. And to just the owner finance piece, the reason why, because some people say, well, why would somebody want to finance for me? Well, the reason why is because they want a steady stream of income.
Right.
They want some money coming in on a regular basis. This is an asset they own. They eventually want to sell it, but instead of taking it one lump chunk, they'd rather because tax implications and all kinds of stuff that come along with that, they'd rather just get a steady stream of income that comes off of it. And I'm fairly certain, because you're financing debt on something like that as an individual, I don't know that the tax liability is that high on that, right? Is it anything? It's nothing, right? You're not paying any taxes on that.
If they can see that asset on your books, right? Then yes, you are going to pay some taxes on that.
Right.
But typically you can offset those taxes with the depreciation that you take on the actual asset that itself over the next 20 to 27 years. So you come in right away and you start doing work to it. There goes your tax liability.
There goes right out the door.
You know, and as long as you continue to do work or you continue to update and maintain the property,
which you always will,
right? And you can, like I said, you can take that depreciation over a certain amount of years, and so you spread out those implications, so it's not as much. And then if you keep doing it, you keep buying more properties. Well, now I'm probably not. If you have a creative CPA who can do everything legally, you're probably not going to see much of those tax implications.
And not to mention there are tax shelters from income that you make on as your personal.
Because you're creating jobs, you're taking risk, which means the government's going to partner with you to take those risks. You know, and they'll compensate you for taking those risks.
Which is a whole other aspect of things that I think you've probably have learned that you didn't set out to learn necessarily. It just became a nature, or it became something that you needed to learn about what you can do, how you create companies, you know, how you can form different LLCs. Do you need one for each property? You need one as a parent company for all of them. You know, who do you go to set up your account so everything gets billed correctly and all that kind of stuff. This is stuff that you have to figure out as you go, right?
Absolutely. You get into real estate, especially with the short and long-term investing, to make money quickly or long-term, steady stream. And then you figure out along the way, you become an accountant, you become a negotiator, a project manager, you become a contractor in some cases, you know, so you learn different facets of how business flows. And it's just by default, you become good at it, you know, and it's just part of the game. And that's why I think real estate is so rewarding, because it pushes you to do things that you never thought that you were even capable of. And things that you couldn't understand in high school and college, they're so crystal clear because it's dealing with your personal assets and your personal or your business finances. And it's once you start doing it successfully, you really take it up a notch.
Well, I think people get intimidated simply because when it's something that they're not familiar with and not comfortable with, then they tend to back away from it because
Absolutely.
of fear. Like, it's like, well, I don't know anything about this.
Absolutely.
And it seems overwhelming because when you look, like, just with you, when you have all the stuff that you're doing, you have an entire neighborhood that you're trying to develop and go through zoning and permits for that. You know, you're flipping houses, you're starting, you know, businesses through venues that you bought property wise, you're making sure all your taxes and everything. Like, somebody stand back and go, it's too much. Like, I can't even begin to understand how all this works. But what they didn't see or they don't know is that you didn't start that way. No. You didn't start with everything. You started, now granted, you come from you sold real estate. So that was your, you know, your foot through the door essentially to get the just general jargon lingo, you know, what you're supposed to know how to do, what you're not. Like, that all took place when you were selling real estate. But from there, it's just little baby steps. It's I'm going to do this first, and then now I have to do this, and okay, now I got to do this, and now I got to do this. Well, I better figure this out, because then it's kind of like you've been digging a hole and you're already down. Like, you know,
like, might as well keep going.
Like, well, I mean,
this thing goes.
You can see where we go, right?
Yeah, and that's how it came about, man. And you'd be surprised how many, like, I'm a realtor, I'm a licensed real estate agent, right?
Yeah.
But most of the investors that I speak with are not.
Right.
You know, they started. Same reason that I started. We wanted to create a different stream of wealth for ourselves. And, and we learned along the way, and you got good. And honestly, you don't need a real estate license to do this. Most of the realtors that I've met, talked to, I have realtors who send me business for investing.
Yeah.
Like, they literally tell their clients.
They just want to sell. They don't want to do any of that.
Go talk to this guy if you want to do, you know, investing or real estate, new construction and things of that nature. So it's just, there's a small percentage of actual real estate agents that do this for a living. Right. It shocks me, but it's true. You know, I would say it's probably less than 3%.
Well, it's a small percentage of people that do all things, right? I mean, that's just kind of human nature. You know, I mean, there's the small do a lot and the many do little.
Right.
That's just generally how it works. But I guess what I'm saying too is that it doesn't have to be this daunting task. No. If it's something you want to do, you can get into it. It just takes one step at a time. Right. You know, you're not going to accomplish or solve all the problems in a day. Like, you got to go through it. And the action, doing something, actually breeds the learning. Absolutely. Because, like we said, once you start one thing, then you got to do the next thing. Yeah. And then you got to do the next thing. And you've already done 2 or 3 things already before. So now you can't, unless you just want to throw all that in the trash and go back, you got to keep going forward.
Yeah. Typically you see progress especially if you start small. Like, our first property that we took on, it took me months to get the first, you know, apartment, which it was a duplex. It took me months to get the first unit ready.
Yeah.
And then when it was done, it was a lot of work, but when it was done, it's like, wow,
I did that.
I did it.
Yeah.
You know? So then it was like,
I didn't die. I didn't die.
Let's get the second side going. And then you got the second side going. Then you bought another one, and then 1 turned into 3, and 3 turned into 10, and 10 turned into 20. And it's like, how did we get here? It's all the same stuff over and over. It's different places, it's different people, but it's the same stuff.
Well, it's crazy. I read something the other day. It was like 95% of all the millionaires in the United States, the vast majority of their wealth is built through real estate.
Yeah.
Like, that's where most of it comes from.
That's where the key is, man. It's real estate. You saw the guy from, gosh, what brokerage did he have? It was a crypto brokerage, and it went down recently.
Oh, FTX?
Yeah,
that guy?
FTX.
Yeah. It was painful.
Think if he had put some of that wealth into, you know, real estate.
A few properties, it wouldn't be quite as bad.
It wouldn't be as bad. I still got the real estate. I can sell this off. I'm good, as opposed to losing half of his wealth or over half his wealth overnight.
Oh, it's pretty much all of it, sir. Or at least that's what they say.
Yeah. I mean, he was on the, American Airlines arena for the Miami Heat. They took his name off that sucker too. It's like, what if you'd invested that in the actual properties? Yeah. And you'd have been a little bit more diversified, and you'd been able to keep a lot of that wealth. Yeah.
Well, it's tough. Again, I think there's the barrier to entry for people is mostly fear, because it's just something they're not familiar with and they think it's hard. But just to give an idea, like, let's say that you were starting with something relatively simple. Okay, you were going to start with you're going to rehab a home that you're going to get rented out, right? It's going to be a long-term rental. So I know it depends on the size of the property, but just reasonable. What would you say to someone's like, you need to have this much money? Once you have this much money, then I can help you do a lot of things.
Sure.
Because I can turn that much money into this much and have asset, whatever. So, because people like simple, paint by numbers, right?
Sure.
Nobody wants to be complicated. Like, just tell me, what's the first thing I got to do, Conrad?
How much money do I need?
What do I
That's
need? What do I
everybody
need?
says. What do I need? How much money do I need? That's pretty much everybody's question.
Yeah.
I tell folks, if you're not partnering with somebody, if you're going to go in by yourself, right, and you work a job, a 9 to 5, first of all, you need to keep that job.
Yes.
Let's just get that straight, because a lot of people are like, I'm going to do this and quit my job. No, you're not.
Not
You're
yet.
going to keep your job, and it's going to help you do this at a higher level till you can retire yourself. Usually I'm telling people you want to have a minimum of at least like $10,000.
Okay.
Right. $10,000 will go a long way. Now
not $10,000 to your name.
Right.
Right.
It's $10,000 for this particular deal.
Correct. Because you still need money to live and survive.
Exactly.
And don't blow your whole,
your personal savings or your rainy day fund. This is not that. This is money that you set aside, which is what we did. I would make money and I would set a percentage aside every time I made money. And that way, when I spent it on real estate investing, and I still do this, I didn't feel guilty about it.
Right.
Because
it was for that purpose.
It was absolutely for that purpose.
Right.
And so, I tell folks, if you can get at least $10,000 saved up, that will help you get into your first deal. It'll probably be a small deal, but that'll at least help you get into your first deal. If you have more than that, $20,000 is kind of like your sweet spot. Like, I can get into a lot of deals for $20,000. Different types of deals too. Maybe small house, a medium-sized house, maybe even a bigger house or an owner finance deal that's a little bit bigger, where they want a little bit more chunk of down payment up front. Like that $20,000 is a really good number, but you can probably get going for 10. If you leverage banks or maybe hard money lenders or different assets to your disposal like that. And I think if you can get that amount going, then the sky's the limit for you.
And I think it's probably it depends a little bit on what you're wanting to do, because if you're going into find a property, rehab it a little bit, because you can get, the banks will give you money for that if you need to and then turn it into a long-term rental. Well, that's great, but you're not going to get the immediate return on your money. The return on your money is going to come in two places. It's going to come in the appreciation of the property, which can take time, obviously. And then it's going to come in the rents that you receive on that property. So the income that you're generating. But what that does is can then mitigate the amount of money that you need for number two. Right. Because you leverage the equity and other things that you have in the property to get what you want to get. So that $10,000 or $20,000 can turn into a usage for other properties later without having to have the same amount of money. If you want to do a flip, where you buy, fix it up and sell it, well, then your return is going to be much quicker. You're going to get your money back and you're going to have that now quicker relative. Right. I mean, you got to sell it but the risk to that is the return is quicker usually, or should be, issues notwithstanding. But the problem is that money comes at a cost, because now if you sell that asset, you don't have it. So now you have to use that cash again to go do your next thing. And you probably better have a little bit more than what you think you need, because when you're flipping a property, all kinds of fun stuff happens.
It's better to, in my opinion, it's better to partner with the right partner, not just partner with anybody, but with the right partner for something like your first flip, because there's the time factor is the thing that people always mismanage. Usually when you're doing a flip, you're basing it off of a specified short time period. And whatever that time period is, you need to budget money-wise for double of that space that you have actually expected it to be done in that time period. So, for example, if you say, okay, I'm going to get this, I'm be in and out of this thing in 3 months. Well, you better have enough money to last you 6 months. Because there's going to be something along the way that's going to, extend that time period that you expected. And you never know what it is. It's always something different. It could be, hey, the contractor didn't show up, or it could be, hey, we had a slab leak, and we had to fix that, and that took extra time. Hey, we couldn't get permits, as you'll see in the show. So there's different things that come that, you want to make sure that you have budgeted money-wise for the extra time. Time is always working against you from the minute that you get that property.
Because time's money. You're spending money. You're paying mortgages. You're paying taxes. You're paying insurance. All this stuff.
With rentals, in my opinion, it's spread out over a longer time period, and so the time factor is not working as much against you. You do want to get the property ready to rent, but ultimately, if it's not, because you're typically on a longer term loan,
right,
then it's not hurting you as much
right.
every month to hold that property. So
Yeah.
to me, it's a little less risky. But that's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
You know, some people could tell you, hey, horror stories from rentals. You know,
well, I think anytime somebody goes into a new venture, and there's always, nobody starts a business or a new project and like, well, this is going to suck. I'm not going to be very good at this. Like, everybody's optimistic.
everybody's
right?
It's going to work.
It's going to be great. Like, we got to figure it out. I experienced that whenever, when I was in my 20s, I started a restaurant with a couple other guys that I had met. And we ended up with 2. We ended up doing it for about 6 years. And, it was, I learned a lot doing that, to say the least. But I did learn a lot of valuable lessons. And I remember very vividly, we had a situation where we were all kind of coming up with the idea, okay, we're buying an existing place.
Yeah.
So it was, and that even at my younger age, I was like, okay, this is a better move, because at least I can gauge, we know what the sales are. We know what the revenue is. We can at least have an idea of what we can do.
Yeah.
And so, and I remember all of us sitting around one of the guys' like living room table or something, and trying to figure out, the P&L, essentially, like how, okay, this much revenue, this much cost. What does this cost? Okay, these are the numbers. And what ends up happening is you start with a number and you go, well, I mean, that's good, or that's okay, but I mean, we can't make more than that.
Yeah.
And then you go, well, you know what? If we do this, and if we do this, then this.
Yeah.
And you're like, ooh. And then you go, but if we do this and we do this, then this. And then everybody's like high five and this is great. Yes, because it's just the optimism and the expectation of everything going perfect is always there. It's like my favorite commercial is a Super Bowl commercial from years and years ago. I don't remember. It's like a monster.com or Career Builder or something, where it had a bunch of chimpanzees in an office.
Yeah.
And they were all like cheering or whatever, like woo, 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 woo. And the one like human stands up and goes to the chart, and he turns the chart, because the chart was showing like everything going up. And so he's like, this is wrong. And he turned it, and it showed everything going down. And you see all the chimpanzees like, what just happened? Like, they're just like, what's going on? And then one of the chimps walks up and then flips it back. They're like, yeah, here we go.
Like, back on track. Record numbers.
Just because, like, we just want everything to work out.
Right.
Human nature is like, it's all going to go perfect. But human reality is, it ain't going to go perfect.
Right.
You're going to have lots of problems.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the things that I loved about trying to film this show. The show's called Real Estate on Deck, right? And one of the things that I feel like is a little bit different from some of the other shows that you see out there is typically your HGTV format is, hey, we're looking at 3. Yeah. Oh, here's the 1. Yeah. And then now the 1's good. And now we fixed it. And now it's beautiful. And life's great.
Everything went great. Well, there's always the 1 or 2 moments where it's
it's like, oh, we've ran into a problem.
This is going to go beyond the budget.
Yeah, exactly. This is $2,000 extra dollars.
That's on top of the budget. Yes, the budget that we made, it's $2,000 over the budget. Well, he's not going to be happy that this went over budget, so we need to get it back under budget. Well, what is the budget? I mean, we established the budget from the beginning. If I hear the word budget one more time, my head's going to explode.
That's how the shows go. So like, when I talked to Keith about doing this one, he was masterful with this. He's like, all right, we're going to show how this really goes.
Yeah.
So you're not going to see one problem. You're going to see like, hey, here's 4 problems.
All the problems.
Here. Here's another problem over here. Here's another problem over here. Oh, by the way, we're still doing this successfully with all the problems.
Yes.
But even after this successful one, there's another one over here that sucks. Here's another problem. So you see a realistic view of, hey man, like I'm regular like everybody else with this stuff. Like I'm trying to figure it out on the fly. Yeah. Yes, I've got some experience, but I really want to show a realistic view of, man, problems gonna come.
Yeah.
And as long as your mindset is right, so you be able to, manage and
when you plan accordingly, you have to have money and make sure that you're okay with it.
I learn a new lesson every property. You never stop learning. It's always education. Yeah. And even if you claim to be a guru or claim to be an expert, you're still gonna make mistakes.
Yeah.
And you'll see plenty of the mistakes that I make in this YouTube series. And that's what I think makes it a little bit different. It's like, hey, I'm highlighting some of the things that I'm not good at.
Yeah. Well, and you know what, that endears people too, because when you try to put on, one of the issues with social media and any kind of pieces that you're putting out as an individual, everybody wants to show the best side of themselves all the time.
Absolutely.
Right. Which creates an unrealistic expectation of what life's really like, because, nobody's life is perfect. No. Nothing goes great all the time. There's usually things go worse than they go good. And it's just about perseverance and working through that kind of stuff. But But I think when people actually see that happening to someone else, they feel better because like, oh, okay, this
if
happens.
He made that mistake, then I can make that mistake also, and I could still be okay. You know, if he's been doing this amount of years and he missed that, I don't feel so bad about missing that. You know.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing for people to feel comfortable with, and that's why we talked in the beginning about seeing yourself on camera and all that kind of stuff. But it's also just being okay with the fact that you can mess up, you look kind of goofy. Because I will tell you, after doing these things for so long, like I'm over it now. Like it doesn't,
it is what it is.
it doesn't really matter if I like today. I sound like I have a cold because I have had one for like a month, and I keep coughing and sniffing every 5 seconds like I'm doing rails or something. But
it ain't gonna be perfect. That's okay. No. I'm comfortable in my own skin, as are you. So it's like, let people see what it really looks like. That's what I wanted to show.
So a lot of the stuff that you do is in smaller towns, like Itasca. Not that Hillsboro is a small town. It's not big, but it's also not a tiny town either. But Abbott and the other places. So why do you tend to gravitate to, let's put it that way, those smaller areas? And then what kind of challenges do those present for you and advantages?
Yeah. So ultimately for me, I'm typically of the mindset of a couple of reasons. First of all, I'm trying to get into it for as cost effective as possible. So there's not as much competition in a place that's a little further out. So I always try to go where there's less competition as long as the value is there. And then on the second thing, it's like I'm trying to stay a couple towns ahead of the competition of where everything's going.
Yeah.
These days, the metropolitan areas, everybody's there. Everybody's trying to win. The numbers are smaller. The margins are smaller.
Right.
So if I can get ahead of where it's going, by the time I finish what I'm doing there, stuff has already gotten to me. And now I'm getting to where the market is taking the property, as opposed to where, right now in like the metropolitan DFW area, it's already kind of priced out.
Right.
I'm not priced out there.
Right.
I can get there at affordable rate and know that stuff is still coming my way. And then when it gets there, I can leverage that appreciation to go somewhere else or do more things in that area.
Yeah.
And so that's been my mindset from the beginning. I will take the stuff on that people don't want to take on. And the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. I'm comfortable a little bit more now. I wasn't like that at the beginning, but as you do one, you get a little bit more confident in your abilities. And as you go forward, you start to learn, okay, people are going here. The trend is here. You start to see roads and things get put in. You start to see buildings pop up and stores and, signs going up saying, hey, you see schools being built. It's like, okay, well, maybe I should focus on this area. Maybe this is something that
you spend enough time there, you start seeing these things pop up.
Yeah, it's just like anything else. At one point, Mansfield was in the boonies.
Sure.
Now look at it.
Now it's not. Yeah. Yeah.
I know, because personally, I grew up playing, sports and stuff down here. I remember thinking, man, this is a long car ride as a kid.
Why are we going
it's
so
in
far?
The heart of everything.
No.
Now it's super expensive to live here.
Yes.
So it's just taking that mindset to an approach to investing.
What kind of difficulties do you run with, like dealing with the local governments and municipalities, getting permits, talking to planners?
Life moves a little slower in those smaller towns,
right?
So it's usually one guy as opposed to an apartment that you're dealing with.
Right.
And if you're not on that guy's good side, he can make sure that your project is a nightmare. He can slow it down significantly enough to where you can't make the money that you thought you were going to make on time.
Right.
So there's challenges there. There's challenges with infrastructure. I've run into numerous survey issues, lot line utility issues, to where you thought something was there and then it's not.
Right.
When you get ready to build, hey, it's not. And
and they're like, well, sorry, buddy.
Yeah, sorry, missed it. Or we approved it, but he didn't get a chance to see it before we approved it. So
sorry,
it is what it is. So there's an aspect of that's in investing, but that's one of those things, one of those challenges that you figure out how to overcome.
Yeah.
I've been hit with some significant challenges as of in the last 6 months. And ultimately we've been able to figure it out. Every single time we've been able to figure it out.
Yeah.
And it didn't take a, Mack truck load of, cash to figure these things out.
Well, too, you're not on every, the development's a little different, but for the most part, you're aiming small, and you're missing small if you miss.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're trying to build a $5 million project and then you have a $350,000 issue.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of are.
Well,
You got the development thing going on.
It's like episode 7.
Yeah. By the way, we keep talking about this. So Conrad and a few other partners, they bought some land in Hillsboro.
Right.
and they're actually building neighborhoods,
Yeah,
a couple of neighborhoods,
whole subdivision. So should be interesting.
So I have a question that I think a lot of people would want to know too.
Yeah.
Because I wonder myself. I mean, I kind of know, but why is affordable housing so incredibly hard to build? Why can't we build homes for people in the $200,000 to $250,000 range en masse? Like, why? I mean, there's obviously the one-offs here and there, but if DR Horton or Legacy Homes come into my neighborhood, they're building $400,000 and $500,000 homes.
Correct.
They're not building $250,000 houses where the first-time home buyer can go in and purchase and start their portfolio. I mean, if you want to buy a house and you want to live anywhere close to civilization, you're paying $400,000. So from a builder and developer's point of view, why is that so difficult? And are there ways that is there ways that can be, or things that can be fixed in order to make that problem go away? I know it's not anything you and I can control, but
yeah. I'll just flat out tell you, man, it's expensive to build homes, right? A lot of the expense comes in the dirt.
Okay.
So it starts there. If your dirt, which you're buying, is in a popular area, it's usually very pricey.
Right.
You know, we had 10 acres for sale down the street from where we live in the county of Mansfield. I think it was $10 million.
Wow.
You know,
wow.
10 acres.
That's crazy.
You know, so if you're spending that much money for the dirt, well, typically you don't want a high percentage of your build tied up in dirt.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to build a more expensive product in order to offset the cost that you paid just to get the land.
Wow.
So from the jump, you're already building $500,000, $700,000 houses if you're in those type of areas,
right.
Which is why you have to go further out to get the dirt cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you get the dirt cheaper, you can build a little bit more of an affordable home product. Now with the economy as of late, we had material supply and supply chain issues.
Right.
And so to get in mass and bulk, you have to pay extra. You either got to pay double the freight to get it here, or you got to hire somebody to go down and drive and pick it up. Well, that's costing you extra. Well, the builder can't take that cost on. They've got to pass that on to the consumer through the form of pricing. Okay. So at the end of the day, most of the production builders, the volume builders, have numbers set from corporate that they need to make on these development projects. And
they have targets they have to hit.
They have to hit these targets.
Right.
Okay. So after all those inflated land costs and labor costs and material costs, they still have to hit their number.
Mm-hmm.
And so the only way to do that is to build a bigger, badder, more expensive product.
Right.
So building the $100,000 house when labor is, 30% higher than it was 3 years ago is just not feasible.
Right.
A builder will literally be building houses for free or in the negative, and then they won't be building for very long. And so, I kind of see both sides of it because we do new construction and I help people buy and sell homes. So I get the argument that this is too pricey, but I also understand that people want convenience.
Yeah.
And so you're paying for the convenience, you're paying for the economy situation, and you're paying for those companies needing to hit their target number.
Is there a way? I mean, obviously one of the answers is you just got to live further away if you want to get a cheaper house, which I get, and it sucks. But is there any way to take Fort Worth and Dallas and Arlington and Mansfield and try to build homes in those areas that are affordable, or is it just impossible?
The city tries to do a good job of helping you get incentives. Like even the neighborhood that we're getting, we're trying to keep the cost controlled, but we're in what they call an opportunity zone, right? So the opportunity zone is a zone. It's a specific parcel or area in town or out of town where the city wants development. And so for developing, coming in and making that area nicer with new construction, they'll give you breaks or waive permits.
Okay.
They'll give you breaks on sales
minimize
taxes.
Some of your costs.
Yeah, for using like local vendors or local stores for getting your materials and things of that nature. So the cities and the municipalities try to do a job. There's just not enough of it, right? Especially when the market is good. People don't want to be donating their land for opportunity zones, and people want to get the most out of their assets. So it's tough. It's tough when everything's rising. That also passes through to the people who are performing this new construction development. And so it's not like, hey, they're trying to be building. It's like gas. The guys at the gas stations make more money when the gas is cheaper.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
well, builders typically make more money when prices are lower because everybody's buying.
Because you have more people buying.
But raising those prices are typically to hit the quota that they need and still be able to be profitable going forward so they can keep building.
So is there, I mean, I get frustrated by this stuff simply because, you know, I look at, I'll use Mansfield as an example just because I see it every day, but, and I don't, you know, I may have some of these facts incorrect, so I'll say that right away.
Put that out there.
Yeah. But from my understanding, the amount of money that was given to, say, the Dallas Stars to build the Star Center that we have over there by the field house on 287, and even Big League Dreams, right? We created city subsidies basically for these entities to come in. We built it. We technically own it, but they have a management agreement that they run it for 50 years or what. I mean, it's something ridiculous. So essentially the city funded it with our taxpayer dollars. It was built. We paid a management company to come in and run it. And the city doesn't even really earn any revenue off of it other than, I don't even think they get tax revenue off of it. Maybe. Yeah. Not all my facts are correct. I could be wrong. So with that being said, what frustrates me is I go, okay, well, if we can do that for an ice skating arena in our town that sits on whatever it is, 5 or 6 acres of land, 10 acres of land. I mean, why couldn't we do that for, you know, a property, you know, I mean, or housing to build new homes for people that come in and.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that stems from who's in those positions to make those decisions as well. So if you are not vetting the people who are in those positions, typically you're gonna get in a situation where what's going on is going to keep going on. And if you want your voice to be heard, you have to show up to the city meetings. Like I said, the last time I was here, city council meetings, planning and zoning meetings, and voice your opinion and say, hey, this is what I think would be good for our town, or run for those positions and garner, you know, enough support so you can get in and make that difference and see some of this stuff shift into the areas that you want to see. Cause that's all that they did. The people who are in the positions now, they ran and they got into position so that way they can make decisions on bringing venues like that here. Right. So if you would like to see it shifted elsewhere, you got to show up. You got to make your voice heard. You got to put your agendas out there, and you got to put the legwork in order to get some change. And that's how it is everywhere. Right. You know what I mean? So that's another way you can affect change, is to try to make sure that you're in the legislation or helping form that legislation that's passed, so that way we can get these things built.
Well, and you do that with a lot of the smaller towns that you build stuff in. I know you go to a lot of those meetings and attend
a ton, but you know, I have to be seen to make sure that people know that I'm still here. I still care about the community. I am trying to help develop the community, and I have its best interest at heart. If not, man, I mean, I'm just gonna be another number on a page.
So as an investor, realtor, builder, landlord, developer, all the hats that you wear, we're in a very unique market right now, right? That we've been in for the last couple of months. And, you know, I don't say there's no end in sight, but there isn't any defined, like, oh, you know, it was like during COVID, there were some weird times happening during COVID for a few months, but everybody kind of was like, well, once this passes, like life will get back to normal and whatever. And here we are a couple years later. So what are you looking at as far as an investor? You know, this time is there opportunity? Is it stay out of the market? Is it, you know, and what are other investors doing? And then because of that and what they're seeing, the people that have the money that are putting into the market or choosing not to, then if you're buying or selling, or you want to own a home just to live in because you've been renting your whole life, like what would you tell people right now, you know, to prepare themselves for this market, or what they should take advantage of or not?
I think if you're looking for your primary residence, and you've been looking, now's one of the best times that you could have ever had.
Why is that?
Because in the last decade, our market has been going up, 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 up. Right. And right now, since the interest rates are higher, the inventory is sitting on the market longer. So now as a buyer, you have options.
Okay.
And yes, the rate's a little higher, but ultimately, before you were taking any house you can get, now you can actually choose your house.
Yeah.
Now you can go to a builder and say, I want to build this from the ground up, and know that, okay, well, I'm going to get what I want, and he's not going to raise the price $30,000 on me tomorrow.
Right.
You know, so it's a really good time for a buyer to be out in the market. Same way on the investing side. I do hear a lot of people who are cashing out of their current investments, and that's okay if you're trying to be liquid to take on a bigger opportunity.
Right.
But ultimately, if you're sitting on the sidelines waiting for things to get better, this is the time that investors dream of, where there's less competition, more inventory, and fear and uncertainty in the market. This is where fortunes are made, especially in real estate. And so if you've got the confidence in yourself and your abilities of your team to get out there and get something, now is the time. There are deals, there are probably 40 deals that come across my desk every day that have equity, that have margins. You know, and then they're decent deals. Before, in the last 2 years, you might find 2 in that same amount of emails that come through. Wholesalers are dropping prices like crazy because they're scared of losing their deal that they have under contract, you know? So there's opportunities left and right if you're willing to take on that challenge. It's just most people, the fear and uncertainty keeps them on the sidelines. And that's what I try to help people understand in my real estate group on Facebook. That's what this show is going to try to touch on. It's like, dude, now's the time. When everybody's scared, it's not time for you to, you know, tuck and run. Like, it's get out there, jump out there, because it's going to turn just like it turned again. And
that window's going to close.
And then you're going to be sitting on more money when it does turn than you ever imagined you would ever have in life.
Well, and can you talk to a little bit about the difference between, as an investor, you know, I can take out a loan for 7.5%, 8%, 9%, whatever it is. Hard money lending is even higher. Or I can buy a house when rates are really low and I can pay $40,000, $50,000 over the list price and get it, but my rate's low. So from a cash flow perspective and what you can do with your money, which pool are you swimming in?
So I'm in the higher rate pool, right? So because to me, my philosophy on long-term investing is the rate doesn't matter as much. Because as an investor who's going to continue to buy properties, typically I'm going to refinance multiple times on that same property over the course of 10 years. So the rate may be 7, as long as my analysis that I've run that shows that I'm going to make money through the rents, through my cash flow, and I know that the appreciation is going in an upward trend, which it typically has been in DFW. I don't care what the rate is. If I can make the money on a 10% interest rate, I'm going to buy it. You know, because I'm probably going to refinance it in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and I'm going to pull that money back out and I'm going to start over. And as long as I'm renting it out, I have tenants in there paying the debt down for me. So it's not like I'm paying for that rate out of my own pocket. That's what the analysis is for. That's why we have groups that you can learn how to run analysis. That's why we have TV shows that show you this is a good deal, this is a bad deal. This is why we have books and publications and podcasts like this that try to help people get over that fear and uncertainty. You know, everybody's been trained to low interest rate, safe. Play it safe. And it's like, you're always going to get what you've always had if you always do what everybody else does.
Well, and that's the thing, is when you're headed in the same direction as everybody else, that's not where opportunity is found. Because everybody's looking for that opportunity. And like you said, as soon as rates get into the 5s or 4 or wherever again, we're almost at 8% to some. I mean, we had a couple good days recently, but even still, the market hasn't changed that much. And even, you know, 7 and 8%, the rate goes to 5, and everybody's like, oh, thank goodness, there's no more 7 and 8. We're back. And then it all floods back in.
And now you've missed your opportunity where that sucker was sitting right there in front of your face and you didn't grab it. It's like, grab it and take a hold of it, man. It'll change your life. It can.
And the thing that's working against us as well is, and I was watching something yesterday, I don't remember, and a commercial for Open Door came on talking about buying your house. And you have large companies now that realize as well, because they have really deep pockets and they can do whatever they want. And there's been a lot of news like, oh, Zillow's losing their behind, and Redfin and all these other companies that bought up all these real estate or whatever. And that's true to some extent. What they're not telling you is that the amount of equity that they picked up by owning those assets and what they can leverage against that equity to do a lot of other things is actually helping them out quite a bit. And so when you see advertising for people and large companies wanting to buy your home to help you out, they're basically saying, hey, we know you're distressed. We know that you'll sell it to us for whatever we want to offer you, because if you're trying to sell right now, if you are trying to sell your house today, it's not for fun. You're selling it because you have to, for whatever reason.
You have a need.
Yes. And so if that's the case and you haven't had any offers on your home for 30 or 60 days and you're starting to panic and you have to sell it, somebody's going to come along and offer you something.
Absolutely.
And you're probably going to take it.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So you want to be the person offering and not letting Open Door and Zillow and, capital or private equity companies buy up all the real estate so we become renters for the rest of our life.
Exactly. That's the key, is understanding and seeing vision of what's coming before it actually happens.
Right.
That's real estate 101, man. You got to see what people miss.
Yeah.
And what I've really tried to do, especially in the last year or so, is just really try to educate the people who are in our circles and say, hey, look, there's opportunity there. Yes, there's risk there. Yes, this is not normal.
Yeah.
But if you do this now, you will be loving yourself in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
You'll be absolutely happy. Like, if I could look back at 2016 when I started investing, I'm so upset that I didn't buy everything I could get my hands on.
Yeah.
Because look at what position we would have been in now, which we're in a good position now, but we could have been so much better.
Yeah.
So here's another time like that.
Yes.
They don't come around too often.
No.
Don't wait. Do not sit on your hands. If you're trying to get out there, you need to take that leap down.
Yeah.
Ignore the negative news. Take the leap.
So last thing, you got any stuff on the horizon? Anything new that isn't like what's kicking around in Conrad's brain? It's like, you know what, I'm gonna try this next, because I know there's something. There's got to be. Whether you do it or not is irrelevant. Because the other thing, I meant to say it earlier, but and I've talked about this before, but 99 out of 100 of the things that you think about, and that you may even write down or put a note or whatever, it never happens. Right. I mean, that's just, but if you don't think about those things, then nothing ever happens.
Yeah.
So, what's in that 99 basket that you're just like,
I've been kicking around this boat and self-storage, man. I've been kicking it around and kicking it around. I've got a good buddy of mine who's done it and done it successfully. So that's something that's on the horizon.
Okay.
So
buying a storage place to put put boats in, and
boats, RVs, campers, things of that nature. I think that's something that I've been kind of watching. Self-storage also. I've been just kind of watching for a little bit. And with the times that we're in now, I might be able to pick up some land here soon and see what happens. So I think that is something that is another area that people don't know a ton about.
Jen agrees with you.
Yeah, Jen knows what I'm talking about.
Yes. She's already on board with that too. She's heading in that direction. So
yeah. So
all right,
that's in the brain.
All right. Well, so tell us again, where are we going to find your show?
So you're going to find it on my YouTube channel. It's just Conrad Jackson. The show's called Real Estate on Deck. So if you search Real Estate on Deck, it'll pop up. It's the first episode is going to be released on Thursday of this week.
Okay.
And then also on Instagram, at Conrad Jr. 21.
Okay.
Probably have it on there as well. My Facebook page is just my name, Conrad Jackson. And then our Facebook real estate group is called Real Estate Investing for Beginners.
Okay.
So
I'll put a link to the YouTube page in the comments. So if you guys get this far in the podcast, if you go to the comments, I'll have the link to the YouTube page there. And I'll also put a link to your real estate investing group. So if you guys have questions, just pop in and be an observer. You never know what stuff you can get answered.
Good stuff being talked about in there. Good ideas. People acting on them every day, making some money.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, man, for coming in again for the third time. Very much appreciate you. And
become a friend of the show.
That's right. That's right. Once we're like 4 or 5 episodes deep, you can tell me how that's going on the YouTube show. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks for sticking around with us today, and we'll see you on the next one.
Sounds good.
Adios.